The Horse and the Girl. Once upon a time, in a small, quiet village nestled at the edge of a vast emerald forest, there lived a young girl named Lily. Lily was an adventurous soul, always curious about the world beyond her village. Her family owned a small farm where they grew vegetables, raised animals, and worked hard from sunrise to sunset. But Lily's heart wasn't in the quiet routine of farm life. She longed for something more, something wild, something free. The people in the village were kind and hard-working, and they had always told stories of the wild animals that roamed the woods. But Lily was more fascinated with the creatures who lived on the edge of the village, where the fields met the trees. Her favorite part of the day was when the sun began to set, and the orange and pink hues painted the sky. That was when she would sneak away from her chores and wander to the meadow just beyond the woods. It was there, in the soft, grassy expanse, that she first saw him, the horse. The first time Lily laid eyes on the horse, she was only 5 years old. It was a bright summer afternoon, and her parents had sent her to play with the other children. Most of the kids were content with their games, but Lily found herself drawn to the edge of the field. The tall grasses swayed gently in the breeze, with a sleek and the scent of wild that shimmered in the sunlight. His mane was standing like a shadow at the edge of the forest, catching the wind was a magnificent creature. His eyes were the color of the deep forest, dark and mysterious, and they seemed to see through her as though they understood her thoughts. Lily had never seen such a creature before, and she was both awestruck and a little intimidated. She stayed at the edge of the meadow, watching him from a distance, feeling both curious and respectful of his wild beauty. The horse didn't seem to mind her presence. He grazed peacefully, his powerful muscles rippling under his coat. The other children had long since run off, but Lily stayed, quietly watching the stallion as he moved through the meadow. She knew she shouldn't get too close. The villagers often warned the children about wild horses, telling them to keep their distance. But something about this horse felt different. It wasn't just wild, it was free, and that freedom called to her in a way that no one else could understand. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the horse moved gracefully toward the edge of the forest, disappearing into the trees. Lily felt a pang of longing in her chest as she watched him fade into the shadows. That night, as she lay in bed, her mind raced with thoughts of the horse. She couldn't explain it, but she knew she had seen something extraordinary. She dreamed of running through the meadows with him, galloping side by side, as free as the wind. From that day on, Lily returned to the meadow whenever she could. Each time she hoped to see the wild horse again. Sometimes she would spot him grazing peacefully in the distance, his coat shining like midnight under the sun. Other times he was nowhere to be found, leaving Lily to wander the meadow and listen to the whispers of the wind. But every evening, when the air grew cool and the sun set in a burst of color, she would return to the same spot, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. As Lily grew older, her connection to the meadow deepened. She spent hours there, walking the edge of the forest, listening to the songs of the birds and watching the trees sway in the breeze. She learned the rhythms of the land, the way the earth smelled after a rainstorm, the way the grasses rustled in the wind, the way the world seemed to come alive at dusk. One evening, when Lily was 10, she arrived at the meadow to find the horse standing just a few yards from her. His dark eyes were fixed on her, and he didn't move. For a moment, Lily froze, unsure of what to do. But then, with a deep breath, she took a step forward. The horse didn't run, didn't turn away. Instead, he simply watched her, his head tilted slightly, as though he were waiting for her to approach. Lily moved cautiously, her heart beating faster with each step. She could feel the earth beneath her feet, the soft blades of grass brushing against her legs, and the cool evening air surrounding her. She was so close now that she could hear the sound of his breath, steady and calm, as he stood still and watched her. She reached out a hand, trembling, unsure if she should touch him. But the horse stood perfectly still, as though giving her permission. With a quiet whisper, she spoke to him. "I won't hurt you. I just want to know you." To her surprise, the horse took a small step forward, bringing his head closer to her. He sniffed her outstretched hand, and Lily could feel the warmth of his breath on her skin. It was the closest she'd ever been to him, and her heart swelled with joy. She didn't touch him, but the bond between them felt stronger than words. Over the next few weeks, Lily continued to visit the meadow, and each time, the horse was there. He began to trust her more, allowing her to come closer. She would sit on the grass and watch him, and sometimes he would come close enough for her to hear the soft thud of his hooves in the earth. There was no need for words, only the quiet understanding that passed between them. It was as if they spoke in a language without words, a language of the heart. As the years passed, their bond grew even deeper. Lily was now 12, and the horse, though still wild, had become a constant presence in her life. She could sense his moods, when he was calm, when he was restless, when he wanted to run free across the meadow. And sometimes, on rare occasions, he would let her approach him, just enough to touch the tips of his mane, or feel the smoothness of his coat beneath her fingers. One summer evening, Lily came to the meadow to find the horse standing at the edge of the forest, his gaze fixed on the horizon. The sun was setting, and the sky was a canvas of pinks, purples, and golds. There was a quiet stillness in the air, as though the whole world was holding its breath. The horse turned his head toward her and began to move slowly across the meadow. Lily stood still, her heart racing, unsure of what was happening. As the horse approached, she felt a strange sense of urgency, as though something was about to change. When he reached her, he nuzzled her hand gently with his nose, a sign of trust and affection. She could feel the warmth of his breath against her skin, and for the first time, she knew that their bond was unbreakable. And then, the horse did something that took Lily completely by surprise. He knelt down on one knee, lowering his body to the ground in a gesture of surrender. It was a sign of respect, but also an invitation. Without thinking, Lily climbed onto his back, her heart pounding with excitement and fear. She had always dreamed of this moment, but now that it was here, she wasn't sure if she was ready. But as the horse stood up, she realized something. She didn't need to be ready. They were already connected in ways that words could not explain. Together, they would ride the winds and the wild earth. Over the next few months, Lily and the horse became inseparable. She rode him through the fields and forests, galloping over the hills, feeling the wind rush through her hair. The world around her seemed to fade away, and all that existed was the rhythm of the horse's hooves and the freedom of the open land. She had become a part of the wild, just as the horse had become a part of her. But as the seasons changed and autumn approached, Lily began to notice that the land around her was changing too. The village, which had always been small and peaceful, was beginning to expand. New roads were being built, and construction crews were clearing the fields and forests to make way for more houses and shops. The quiet meadows and forests that had once been Lily's refuge were slowly disappearing. One afternoon, Lily's father told her the news she had feared. The village council had decided to build a new road through the meadow. They would be clearing the land soon to make way for the new construction. The wild horses would no longer have a place to roam. Lily's heart sank. She couldn't imagine a world without the meadow, without the horse. The thought of losing him was unbearable. She spent the following days in a daze, wandering the fields in search of the horse. But no matter where she looked, he was nowhere to be found. The day before the workers were set to arrive, Lily went to the meadow one final time. The air was heavy with the scent of earth and the weight of unspoken goodbyes. She walked to the edge of the forest, where she had first seen the horse all those years ago. For a long time she stood there, waiting. But the horse did not come. Just as the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the land, Lily felt a presence beside her. She turned and saw the horse standing at the edge of the field, his dark eyes fixed on hers. He was not the same wild creature she had first seen. He was something more now, something they had built together, a symbol of freedom, of trust, of connection. Lily stepped toward him slowly, her heart full of love and sorrow. She reached out her hand, and the horse nuzzled it gently, as if to say goodbye. In that moment, Lily understood. The horse would always be a part of her, and no matter where life took her, she would carry the wildness and freedom of the meadow within her heart. With one last touch, she whispered softly, "Thank you." The horse gave her a final look, then turned and trotted into the forest, disappearing once again into the wild. The next day, the workers came and the road was built. But Lily knew that the meadow would never truly be gone. She would carry its spirit with her always, and whenever she closed her eyes, she could still hear the sound of the horse's hooves echoing in her heart.